Hi guys, welcome back to Ciara's Cookery. Today we're going to be making pan-seared salmon. You can use fresh salmon. You can also use frozen salmon. If you do use frozen salmon, just make sure you have completely thawed out the salmon before you start to cook it. Here we have some thawed out salmon. What you're going to do, you're going to rinse it. I always rinse mine, and then you're going to pat it dry. So make sure you pat it dry underneath, both sides, so on and so forth. Once you do that, you're going to take your olive oil and you're going to drizzle it on top of both pieces of your salmon. You don't have to put a lot on there. I might have used a little bit too much, but I'm just doing this on a whim. So you're going to go ahead, take that little bit of oil, you're going to rub the back, the sides, so on and so forth for both slices. So once you finish oiling both sides, this is where we're going to start seasoning the salmon. So you're going to start off with a little bit of Old Bay. Gonna sprinkle a little bit of that on both sides of the fish. Important, guys. Both sides of the fish, important. Now, if you're on some type of dietary restriction, okay, you don't have to, but for it to taste good and for you to get that real good crisp with that seasoning, you want to do both sides. Okay, now we're going to add some black pepper to each side. That's going to do a light sprinkling of that. Next, we're going to take the garlic powder, and you're going to go ahead and sprinkle that on both sides. Try really, really hard not to be heavy-handed. We just want to do a little bit of sprinkling on both sides. And, of course, that's a big container, so it's a little bit harder to sprinkle. And next, we're going to put a little bit of Tony's Creole seasoning on here. One of my favorite seasonings. You're just going to put a little bit of this on here because you did put the Old Bay on there. I just like putting Tony's in everything, so Tony's is going on my salmon. And then next we're going to be putting on onion powder. And you're going to sprinkle a little bit of this. You want to make sure that you're not putting a lot of any of the seasons on here, unless that's your preference. Unless that's your preference, you don't want to overdo anything. And then next, we're gonna put on some paprika, and feel free to use the regular paprika, or if you want to use a smoked paprika, you can as well to give it kind of that smoky taste. I'm thinking, sometimes it's not necessary. This time I didn't do it, but it's definitely something you can add, or if you want to add a little bit of a different type of flavor into it, you could also use chili powder. But I think it works best with either paprika or smoked paprika. Now you're going to go ahead and heat up your skillet and add a little bit of olive oil in here. You probably want to have it on about medium heat. Yeah, about a medium high. You don't want to do it too high, because you don't want to put your fish in there and it immediately scotches it or burns it, and you don't want to burn up your butter. So the next thing we're going to add in here is about a tablespoon of butter. You're going to go ahead and let that simmer and let that work around in the skillet. Once you get your butter melted down in there, you're going to go ahead and add your salmon slices to your skillet. I use tongs to put this in here for whatever reason. The tongs kind of rubbed off a couple of areas. So I just sprinkled that in there just to give it some color in those blank spots. But you're going to just let this sit here for probably 3 to 4 minutes. Kind of depending on your skillet, how your oven cooks. And you're just going to watch it 3 to 4 minutes. You don't have to touch it. Just let it cook. All right, now you're going to go ahead and get your tongs, and you can check under there to see, okay, how dark it is. That's good for me. That's how I like mine, a little bit with a little bit of a crunch. Okay, you can roll that oil and butter around and go ahead and flip that salmon over and let it cook for about 3 minutes on the other side as well. If you feel like your skillet is getting a little bit too hot, or you feel like it's cooking too fast, definitely crank it down to maybe like a medium heat when you turn it over. But you're gonna go ahead and allow it to cook. Now, something that I started doing, because I love butter and seasoning, sometimes that seasoning gets down there in that butter and that olive oil, and I like to go ahead and get that spoon and just drizzle some of that butter and seasoning on that top side of the salmon. You don't have to do this, especially if you're trying to watch your oil intake, but I definitely like drizzling that seasoned butter and oil over the top as that bottom portion is cooking. All right, so once that's cooked down for about 3 minutes, you can check that side and see how it looks. It looks perfect to me. All right, and at this point, we are finished. You can go ahead and take that salmon off, and this is going to be your end result. Very good. It's going to be nice, light, flaky, have a little bit of crisp on the outside. It's going to be well seasoned. All right, thank you for checking out Ciara's Cookery. You can look forward to seeing you next time. And until then, subscribe to our channel for more recipes.